okay, I want some. This is not just rank punditry; it's rank criminology. I want your best guess, and I stipulated it's a guess. Who and what is behind all of the long knife stories about Kamala Harris? Is it? And what is the point of them? I don't mean why the reporters are writing them, although that's fine for speculation too. I mean, why are all these Democrats giving the quotes necessary to write these pieces about how she's blown an opportunity, she couldn't win an election? Is this the vaunted Buttigieg machine working its will behind the scenes? Is this the Biden people trying to get her to drop off the ticket? Is this the Biden people signaling, this is my preferred theory, signaling, look, if you think I can step down and Kamala can fill my shoes, you're crazy. She can't beat Trump. I can. But it is weird how all of these stories are coming out right now. And I was wondering if you have a theory about them.
That's a very interesting question, and one I can't say I've devoted a ton of thought to as to who's doing the backbiting here. And I again, as it's just a guess, because I don't know if there is a vaunted Buttigieg machine, if there is a machine, and I haven't experienced any vaunting. But yeah, it would probably have to come from the president, people around the president. And probably if there was some sort of a catalyzing event, we don't know about it. There might have been. There might have been something that set off the West Wing to a degree that they said, well, we got to cut the legs out from under Kamala Harris, which they've been doing, by the way, since she became vice president. Her portfolio is a series of unresolvable features of the universe. Like, you have to fix voting rights. You have to determine whether the root causes of migration to the United States and address them. They set her up for failure, and she was a perfect target to be set up for failure. But also, Democrats, they wouldn't be in this position if they hadn't convinced themselves of a series of myths about Kamala Harris. And you don't even have to go back to the 2020 campaign and her very lackluster performance on both the debate stage and as a candidate on the trail. You can go back to the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. Do you remember that really shady meeting that Brett Kavanaugh supposedly took at Donald Trump's law firm? Me neither. You know why? Nobody ever can't circle back to that one. She just sort of let that thread lapse. It was like an episode of Lost, where you're teasing that one. That's going to show up somewhere down the line, and a lot of Democrats really took the bait on that. So, oh man, when we get the end of this tease, it's going to be so good, and it never came. She has no follow through. She has terrible political instincts, and they brought her onto the ticket. I'm sorry if this offends anybody. They brought her onto the ticket because of her identity, and part of the reason why they can't get rid of her is because of her identity. And all those stories they talk about how, well, there's going to be a lot of very important pressure groups and constituent groups who are going to push back on the president trying to sideline Kamala Harris. So what can they do? They can neutralize her, keep her in her position, but neutralize her. I didn't answer your question there. I don't know the answer.
No, I mean, it's also kind of proven a negative, right? I mean, we just don't know, right? But it does. These kinds of stories don't get written without some prime mover behind them. You don't talk about how the first African-American female vice president, first Asian African-American female vice president, was a huge disappointment who can't chew the leather because it's just newsworthy. Like, that's not how the New York Times and the Washington Post work. And you certainly don't get Democrats saying, even off the record, any of that, not off the record, but
especially since it's not newsworthy. It's not like there was a public catalyzing event for all this.
Right. No, that's right. And I do think that Jim Garrity's point, which is made by a lot of other people too, but like that part of the problem is having grown up in California politics, that was really the only state she could ever have won in anyway. And she never had a Republican opponent. And so all of her, it's it's like Mr. Miyagi was having her practice weird movements that actually don't apply to karate, right? She just doesn't have like the sort of the skill sets for a national political campaign. And to his credit, Biden does. Delaware was a more conservative state back in the day, and he always positioned himself as the center of the Democratic Party and all that kind of thing. But the line I loved in, I think it was the New York Times piece, was all about how, she hates dealing in platitudes, and she always wants to talk about specifics and details and facts and numbers and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I had to go back and check the headline again. Are we talking about the same person I thought this article was about? And the thing I always remember was when she was on her book tour preparing to run for president, she was constantly asked, can we solve this division and this polarization? That's what her book was about. It was all this healing stuff. And she said, yeah, because the things that unite us the things that unite us are stronger than the things that divide us. And I remember saying this like in a dozen interviews. And her examples were always things that were common to all bipedal carbon-based life forms, and had nothing to do with being an American, nothing having to do with like anything having to do with the culture. It was sort of like we all worry about our kids' safe.